Good afternoon, everyone. Boa tarde, bon après-midi, goedemiddag. Good afternoon. So I have the pleasure to introduce this webinar today with our member and board member, Atenor. This is one of the webinars that the Chamber is organizing in this coming weeks. First of all, because the Chamber is very involved in sustainability matters, and we launched, I would say, a first seminar earlier on this week. Earlier on this year, on the European funding program, in which a lot of sustainability is foreseen to be happening amongst innovation programs and so on. So we thought it was a good idea to organize one session with Atenor to speak about sustainability in office buildings, which is maybe for some of us an unknown area, but where a lot is going on the sustainability side. So I give the word to Gregory van der Elst, who is also a board member within the Chamber, and I'll let Gregory present himself, and obviously also welcome to Julie Willem from Atenor. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Chantal. Thank you very much, and thank you for letting us participating to the sustainability program of the Chamber. I think it is indeed part of the development of the Chamber, and we are very pleased to be able to put our brick to the building, I would say, and take part to the sustainability program. I will share with you the presentation. It could be easier for me also to present to you the program that we have for today. Okay, all right. So as Chantal mentioned, the objective of today will be mainly to focus on office buildings and how they could contribute to the sustainability in the world. We've seen many programs, but also how we as a company basically developed our sustainability program, not only on our projects, but also in our company, in the DNA on our company. We will have today, well, myself as a speaker, being the country director responsible for the projects of Atenor in Portugal, and we have been a very important invitee for a company, which is Julie Willem, and Julie will be presenting the main part of the presentation because she is responsible to foster on the development of Atenor, basically for the sustainability. So she takes all the experience we have worldwide, and she shares that also with the colleagues in order to develop our strategy in terms of sustainability. Before we start really on the core of the presentation, I would say it's maybe interesting just to do a step back to present in a nutshell who is Atenor, because it's important for you to know also what is our experience and where does our sustainability program come from. We are basically a pure project developer. We focus on large-scale urban development, either office buildings or mixed schemes. We are now present in 10 countries across 16 cities, and we have 34 projects under development currently for a total of approximately 1.35 million square meters. We are also a listed company on Euronext, which makes it very important also for us in terms of development of the sustainability program, not only in our project, but also in the DNA of the company. I will share with you now a little film that we prepared that summarize what we will talk about during this presentation, and that gives you already a flavor of how we came to and who we are, how we came to our sustainability program and who we are. Oh, apologies. I will just start sharing again because I think you don't have the sound of the presentation. All right, that would be better. Sorry for the delay. Here it comes.
Cities are the cradle of our civilization. With their stark contrasts, cities are the places where it all happens. Living, working, sharing, learning, entertaining, meeting, relaxing, enjoying. And today, more than ever, they face unprecedented challenges. As an international sustainable urban developer, Atenor is strongly committed to its 10 cities of activity. Discover Atenor's Urban International Sustainability Experience. Welcome to Archilab, our laboratory of ideas we share with external partners. A place to imagine, innovate, experience and implement new projects for more inclusive, safer, smarter and greener cities. From strategic insight to reality, our projects and actions all contribute to the UN 17 SDGs. The BREEAM Excellence certification leverages Atenor's commitment, particularly towards those 4 SDGs. Health, well-being, comfort and happiness of the occupants of our buildings are at the core of Atenor priorities. Obtaining the WELL certification sets the highest standards. Atenor's commitment to absorbing CO2 emissions has motivated us to plant thousands of trees in all the cities where we are present. Acting for cities means acting for their citizens. Adopting a social lens is crucial when shaping the future of our cities. Acting for more inclusive and supportive cities feeds solidarity and makes a difference. Because our mission is acting for cities, we naturally respond to SDG 11, Sustainable Cities and Communities. This is one of our pillars. It sums up the strength of our commitment towards the city in all its facets, in all its diversity and all its richness. Every day, our dedicated team strives for better and more sustainable cities. So let's work together by joining forces. Let's take a bold step into a sustainable future and hand over brighter cities and a brighter planet for our children to enjoy.
All right, I hope it was clear for everyone. I will give the word to Julie in a minute. Just maybe for you to know, you have the possibility to ask questions also in the Q&A. We will reserve 15 minutes in case it's possible, of course, depending on how many questions, we will reserve 15 minutes to answer the questions. Nevertheless, the presentation will be available also and sent to the people who have registered to the webinar. And we will be also recording this webinar in order for you to review the comments and the answer to the questions that were raised. Julie, I will give you the word now. The floor is yours. And I will stop sharing my screen, of course.
Well, thank you. Okay, so welcome everybody. I'll just begin with a little bit more of context. And so, of course, we are all now facing challenges that are, I would say, harder than ever before. There is this first or maybe second or third wave, which is the COVID-19 crisis that has put us like in a situation we had never foreseen. And it's like a huge change in the whole way of living, of working, of socializing. And so this is a crisis which has led to some responses, the EU responses, of course, of the sanitary crisis, but it's like just one of the first wave that is just hitting us right in front. Next to this one, it might be another wave, another crisis. This is the financial insecurity that will maybe occur after the crisis of COVID-19. And to get back on this crisis, well, the EU has set a Green Deal, but it was not just for the COVID-19 crisis. It was also because we know that next to those, we have to face the most challenging one, which is the climate revolution that we are living in. And so, of course, all this context, it's putting us in our work and our way of doing things at challenge. And so we need to go forward and to think about new ways of living, but also new ways of building, new ways of traveling, new ways of working. And so that's why here we're gonna talk about mainly the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals that have been developed by the United Nations, and also about the European Green Deal. So I think maybe most of you have heard already about the Green Deal, which is the aim is to be climate neutral in 2050. So those are global goals that are really important, not only for our business or for our company, but just for us as human beings. So in Atenor, we settled this Archilab. So Archilab, it's mainly a practical way that we have found to affirm ourselves as an international sustainable urban developer. So it's just a laboratory where we put all our projects and all our development, and we try to capture what is the new trend in architecture, what is the new sustainable technology that we can implement in our buildings, and what are the social changes that will have an impact on the way we want to live, the way we want to work, the way we want to socialize, I would say. So in this video, it was quite fast, but mainly, so Atenor is in the core of this big circle, and Archilab has a purpose of exploring all this new architectural evolution, technical innovation, and social trends. So by doing this, we just expand the circle of the consciousness about what is happening in our world, and just to adapt our project for future needs, for future challenges. And when you look at that, so it gives us a broader perspective on our role as international sustainable urban developer. And in this Archilab, which is mainly exchange, exploration, it's with 13 people within Atenor, but also we invite experts and external persons, and we try to make visit and to see a little bit what is happening around, because you know, every project, when you start a project, well, if you have a fast building permit, you can hope that maybe your project that you design will be delivered 5 or 6 years after the design. So it's very important to have this vision of what is happening, what is coming in the future, what are the opportunities, what are the challenges that we might have to face. And when we do that, it's very interesting to see that there are existing frameworks. And for us, the United SDG, so the Sustainable Development Goals, are the ones that help us to broaden our vision. But of course, we didn't wait for the United Nations to settle a framework to think about all those sustainable goals. So the important thing here is that it's not only about thinking about what is coming, but also from this think tank to go towards a do tank. So what is done in the Archilab is really not only dreaming about what can happen or fearing what could happen, but also to see exactly what we can do with our projects, with our development, what technology, what we could implement, what we can foresee as trends. For example, you know, we worked a lot on co-living, co-working. We are working, of course, a lot on over sustainability. And because Atenor is present in 10 different countries, it's very interesting to have all those trends coming from different places, local trends, international trends, and to exchange, to have really this transversal vision of all our projects. But so in this Archilab, we do not just only talk, we work on projects. So for example, here it's a renovation project, a retrofit of an existing building in Brussels. It's a Beaulieu project. And for this project, we aim not only to have great space and place where people like to come and work and overthink, but also we aim to the carbon neutrality. So you can see maybe just here that there are PV panels on the roof, and there are geothermal installation. And so technically we can achieve carbon neutrality. But also in the building, because, you know, the building that consumes the less is the building where nobody goes and nothing is done. But we want people, of course, to use the building. And so that's why we transform the space in order to put it like a very welcoming place. And here you can see just a few examples, but having a staircase that is open and that allows people to walk from one floor to another instead of using a lift, allowing people to meet and to have a coffee or so. Those are also things that we are looking into in the Archilab, and not just talking about, but also implementing in our project. This other project in Deinze in Belgium, it's a project where there is a part of renovation, part of new build. And because we are, you know, the baseline of Atenor is acting for cities, we are really, we want to contribute to the living of the city. So for us, in this project, we especially have worked on what is active on the ground floor. What is the link with the urban fabric? What do we do in the ground floor to have a sense of community and to have people coming and having activities, and not just a closed development like a traditional development, which is with no contact with the city. So we try to expand these spaces that are in between the public urban life and the private units. So in going in all those directions in the Archilab, what was very interesting was that if we want to really go further in the sustainable development goals, it's good to have this this framework. So we have begun with the idea of having a sustainability report, and the first thing that we do is to have an assessment of where we are, where we stand, what we already do. So we've been looking into the 17 SDG goals, and we have been just making kind of some priorities, the goals that we really substantially contribute to. And of course, on a project level and even in a corporate level, the sustainable cities and communities are really where we can give the more, where we can contribute the more, substantially contribute. And then if you look just on the side of the projects, there are other goals that we achieve, and it was not, we didn't wait for the United Sustainable Development Goals to achieve those, but it's interesting to have this framework so we can just have an assessment of what we already do, what we are best at, what we could improve. And in our project, of course, the good health and well-being of the people that will be the tenant or the landlord of the building that we do is a very important aim, and that's what we've been working on since already a long time. The clean water, of course, affordable energy, and not only affordable and clean energy, but also first to have a very good quality of building, meaning that it will consume less energy. So first we make building that consumes less energy, and then the small amount of energy that is still needed for the building will be with clean energy, so renewable mainly. The ninth goal, industry, innovation and infrastructure. Well, in infrastructure, we don't really act substantially, but in innovation, clearly is another way to improve the quality of what we do, what we propose, and what we offer to the city. The responsible consumption and production, it's about material and all this circular mindset to use the resources that are already present on the site, to have buildings that will improve the place where they are settled. And so in that sense, this goal is also very important for us in the project. The climate action, well, we already talked about a little bit, but all those different, like the clean energy, responsible consumption, led to this possibility of mitigate the changes that are coming in our climate. Like oil and land, it's an important purpose for Atenor, that once we created a building, it's not only to use, but also to improve the biodiversity and to have a better site after the work than before. We contribute also, but less substantially, to the other goals. So this is on the project side, and of course we also, as a company, on the corporate side, we provide education, and we work on gender equality and decent work and good health. But this is more about how the governance of the firm. So as I told you, for us, sustainable cities and communities are just, I mean, we can't do anything else to face this wave of climate crisis. We have to have sustainable cities and communities. So basically, it's our job. We've been doing that for years, and now we are just improving more and more the quality of the building we provide. So for years, those were already the criteria for each project of Atenor. The localization, we are an urban developer, is very important. So we have location in strategic neighborhoods. We want people to be close to services, to shops, to restaurant, cafe, all the terrace that we miss being with our friends and so on. So this and green spaces, of course. So those urban areas are really important for us. Many times in the past, Atenor chose a site that was like with no hope. It was an old industrial site, or nobody was looking at this site. It wasn't close to the city, but people were afraid to build something or to develop a project there. But we were looking into this site and saying, okay, this has a potential. This we can really change and make it better with a development, with a project. The technical expertise, of course, because we are working in many different countries, we've got this expertise of different norm, different regulation, different way of construction in various cities, in various countries. And we try to have as much as possible exchange between the project manager that are working in Warsaw and Brussels, or in London and Brussels, and this gives us a kind of scope which is larger than just working in one city, in one country. We also, by exchanging between all the international country directors, we try to always improve the architectural and environmental quality of our production. And I think this is really important now, because we need to exchange the best practice that are already working in other countries, in the EU mainly, and to try to just level up all our expertise and quality in the building. To ensure that we get to the point that we are looking into, then the certification is really an important point. I will come back to it later, but of course, for several years, the BREEAM certification, the WELL certification, and other more local certification were important to get to with the project of Atenor. So there are also more local, like sustainable neighborhood certification, passive building, of course, and Access for You, SICO. All those certifications mainly have to do with environment, but also with people and comfort. And the last is the social responsibility. And we've seen this in the video. Of course, we are acting for cities, but also on a corporate level, we have action that are acting for people, art for cities, and we try to, as soon as we enter in a new country, as soon as we have a development in another city, to really get into the social context and to compare, okay, do people prefer to rent or to buy an apartment in Amsterdam or in Brussels? What are the differences? We really have this view, which is not just local, so we can compare different social contexts, different social trends, and also, well, political context and way of doing things, construction context. So by doing this, and just by comparison, then we can really assess the existing needs and maybe provide a building, a development that will comply with those needs. But we are also always looking into the future needs and anticipate the future demand of the occupant, of the tenants, of the landlords. So this has been done already for years in the development of Atenor. Here it's another project, so it's the Square 42 by Etoem and Moreno Architecture. And for example, this project is in design phase, and there was a lot of work because it was just the beginning of the COVID-19 crisis, just to make it as smart and flexible as possible to anticipate what will come next, these new ways of working, but also what do we do if we have another health crisis coming in the future? How do we provide a safe space for the workers so they can come to work within this time of COVID? What kind of space people do hope, meeting rooms, large meeting rooms, workshop places, or just coffee or restaurants that are a great place to socialize. Also, the coffee machine is a star now in the office buildings. So this is an example of a project in Luxembourg. Here it's another project in Paris, and there it's very different because the place is not there is not many services and shops around and restaurants around. So within this building made by some and SRA architects, we have been implementing all the services that could help with not only the people coming to work on those offices, but also the people just living around in this area. Just trying to make a place that is not only a building, but has also this capacity of being a building as a service, also to provide what is not already around in the nearby area. When we were looking into all those projects, you know, there is a kind of a jungle of certification. So there are lots of different certifications that are more focused on energy, for example, as a passive house of the FIA standard. There are others that are more focused on people and well-being as well. There are some that are just more national, like the HQE, which is in France. And so we were looking into all of those because we wanted for our buildings or development to have this kind of framework that would really not just be a checklist of criteria, but also so we could have a fluent exchange of knowledge, of best practice within our project. So looking at all those different certification, we were looking into one which was at least international and recognized. We wanted also certification that could assess for not just only one criteria as energy, but enough criteria just to fulfill all the environmental scope that we had in mind. And we are very the tenants and the occupant of the building are very important for us. So it was not only about environment, but also about people. So looking at all those different certifications, we have more than 1 year ago stated that all of our buildings will be certified with the BREEAM certification and the WELL certification. So regarding BREEAM, it's more environmental, and our buildings are aiming for outstanding, which is the highest level, of course, but sometimes it can be complicated, so at least it's excellent. The WELL standard is more about people. So here, when we don't have a tenant, when we don't know who is going to occupy the building, we can't do the whole certification. But we can prepare a development that will really welcome the occupant, and with the occupant, then you can get the certification, the WELL certification. So there are 2 levels in the WELL certification. The first one, which is the WELL core and shell, which is the empty box, allowing the next occupant, the next tenant to get a certification. And then if there is a tenant, if we know already who is going to work or live in the building, then we can aim for gold or platinum certification. So if we take in a little bit more detail, what are the different criteria for each of those 2 certifications, you'll see that it's really linked with the United SDG. You know, we don't, in Belgium we say, you don't have to invent again the warm water. So maybe it's good to hold on what we already know and to push it as far as possible. So in the BREEAM, which is more environmental, the criteria are more about energy, health and well-being, innovation, land use, which is all the biosphere, material, management, pollution, transportation, waste, and water. If we think about what Atenor has been doing, for example, if you take just the criteria of transport, the transportation, by setting itself in the city, of course, you are normally linked to public transport, which is really important in this criteria. So it was not as, okay, we do project and no, we are getting a certification, so what do we have to do? No, it was, what do we already do? Oh, by the way, it's linked to one criteria of the certification for the BREEAM project. So this was, for us, BREEAM was quite the standard, the certification, the most approved and recognized certification that was the best fit with what we were already doing. And then when you look at the WELL certification, what is interesting there, it's really more about people. As I was telling you, there are several things that are linked to the box, the building. So air, for example, also thermal comfort is linked to the building, water, etc. But then it goes a step further. So also there are criteria that are, for example, community or mind, which are not only about what is physically in the building, but also what actions are taken by the occupants, what is happening in the building. For us, having those two certification, it's covering quite a large range of what we are aiming for, and it gives us also the possibility to have this framework as soon as we start the design of a project to assess, okay, is this project good in transportation? What are we going to do for the land use? What is going to have as an impact on the community? So we decided to just as a standard, having as soon as we start the project, the two pre-certification of BREEAM and the WELL. So it gives us like a roadmap of where can go the project and as far as we can push it. And because this presentation is also about the Sustainable Development Goals, incredibly, there are lots of framework existing, but when you compare the SDG, so the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal, the BREEAM, and here it's not in the screen, but also the WELL, you see that there are several aims that are really similar into the Sustainable Development Goals and the criteria that are for the certification of the BREEAM. So you can really link both of them nearly directly. So it was really not, okay, no, we are going to do projects that are SDG proof. No, it was more like, okay, it was nearly like a translation. What do we do already? How can we do it better? And how can this fit in the different criteria so we can communicate about it? So we have made this kind of huge Excel spreadsheet, just linking the UN SDGs, the BREEAM, the WELL, and the Global Report Initiative also. So all those criteria are linked because we know that we will have to also respond to what are you really doing? Please prove that what is the assessment of, you say that your building help for climate mitigation. Let us know how do we do it and can we measure it. So here it's, for example, another project in Warsaw, which is the Lakeside project by Group of 5. And this is a development where, for example, there was an existing building. We could choose to just demolish the building and then construct another. But when we assessed the materials and the impact on of those, then we decided, okay, this building is not that old. Maybe we can reuse the structure and we can just open the ground floor to have this idea of a campus life. And so instead of just saying, well, let's get rid of this old building and do something totally brand new, we really improve what was already on the site and to use as much as possible the resources that were present and to create this life, this campus life, which is actually really next to a university. So it's not just only work. And in the pre-assessment of this development, we've seen that we could really have a BREEAM outstanding building regarding all the criteria. So this was more the part about what we do, our project, our product, and on the side of our corporate, of course, we also had a significant contribution to good health and well-being of the employees, quality education, gender equality, and decent work, which seems to be just, of course, not in question. Or we decided to go also a step further by achieving the CO2 neutral certification at the level of the company. So it means Atenor in Belgium, but also all the local Atenor team. So for example, Gregory also, which is now in Lisbon, there will be also this assessment of how much carbon do we produce, and can we reduce it? Can we compensate it? So this is also another way the company is really implementing those goals into the governance. I just told you a little bit more about the acting. So of course we are acting for cities, but at the corporate level, we also take action like acting for the future, which was planting trees in each city we are present in, acting for people with various partnership with local association and Comunidad Vida de Paz in Lisbon also, and art for cities, because we think that art is essential and not only just something you can not care about. So there was an exhibition going from one city to another, and with photographs, and yes, this was moving from one city to another until COVID-19 just put a stop at the travel of this exhibition as well. So of course, when we look at all of this, it's not only about doing things and thinking that we are doing right things. It's about having this framework that I've been talking about, and to assess how much we have been doing, how much we will be doing, to have really goals that we can measure, and not only goals that are, oh, we are doing the greater good and it's gonna be, yeah, it's gonna be perfect. So we've been doing this sustainability report to assess the situation and to also give a reporting of what we are doing and where we are going to. So there were those sustainable projects and this sustainable firm. So all the SDG for the project and the SDG for the firm. But of course, all this has to rely on a third pillar, which is sustainable funding. So the green bond, maybe you've heard about. Actually, a green bond, it's a very specific emission, but it doesn't lead to any further financial interest. It's just saying that, okay, the money from the green bond will be used only for sustainable projects. And so for us, it was very important to not only having good project and interesting things in the corporate side, but also to have this to take this responsibility and to implement a program in which we say, okay, we have this this funding and we're gonna use it just for our sustainable project. So we decided to launch the first EU retail green bond, retail meaning just for a small amount, in March. And it was linked to this ESG investment framework, which is, I would say, the BREEAM certification, but more in the finance world. and which links also those third point, so environmental, mostly what we've been talking about on the preamp, social and governance of the firm. So in March, we have emitted this green bond, and the subscription was so fast that I think that we had to close it just a few days later. And what's interesting there is that it's not only okay, let's do a smart green thing. No, it's really a commitment, because I'll put the download link maybe in the conversation, but you can see here in the table of content that, of course, we have a process to evaluate the project and select the project that are into this green finance framework, but also we will have this reporting, which is very important, and where certifications are key, because when you say, okay, this project will be BREEAM outstanding, then you commit to something, and then you have to report if you don't get it. So it's kind of a guarantee that the bond will be used just for sustainable projects. Yes, so just to conclude a little bit about that. So for us, it's not only to be in a trend with the UN SDG, but it's really to broaden the vision of Atenor and not just look into our project or just the local cities we are in, but trying to see geographically in a broader scope. So we have this by having project at an international level, of course, on a sustainable direction, but also to improve what we can assess for the future. So it's not only a broader scope that is geographical, but also a broader scope in time and in future, and to just see what is coming in the next years or decade. Okay, so now I'm gonna leave back the word to Gregory, just so we can show you a little bit more in detail what we do as a project with the project in Lisbon.
Okay, thank you, Julie. I will share my screen again. Okay. All right. That's back where we were. So choose a good place to live in. I would say also choose a good place to work in, because we've been talking about offices so far. And why not? Yes, there was a question in the Q&A also, and I will jump on this one. Why did Atenor invest in Portugal, and why do we start developing here in Portugal? And I think this is also an important question, and this is also in the framework of what we've been discussing, because well, like our CEO likes to say, is well, the investments we would like to do are not in the very far from where we are. We tend to invest at 2 hours in plane away from where we started from, which is in Brussels or around Brussels. So Portugal could fit in that strategy. And when you look at the market as our core business, I would say, is developing offices and large schemes. In the future, next would be probably mixed schemes also in Lisbon. When you investigate on the Lisbon office market, you see that the stock, when we start looking at the office market, was very old. Nevertheless, quite big, because we now have almost 5 million square meters in Lisbon, 4.7 million if I recall correctly. But there were lots of developments being made also outside of the city. So we tend to believe that we really had a role to play here to invest in the city, to focus back on inner city developments of offices in order to foster also the mixity of use of buildings inside the city. And also to allow people to have good public transport connections in order to go to work and go back home, which is to us also very important to help decrease the number of cars inside the city. So as you may see, this is something that is important because Lisbon is still one of the main capital in Europe, with a huge stock of offices, with offices that are being old, and we've been discussing about sustainability, about building efficiency. Those buildings for sure in the future will need to refurbishment, and we really feel like we may have a role to play to help the city developing a new office stock that better fits with the new reality and the new requirements of the companies that wish to house their activities in Lisbon. In that framework, this is well, the first project that we do. We started investing in 2019, and on mid-2019 in a plot of land in the Expo, and we developed basically all what Julie's been talking about. So we developed a building that is flexible, that is not even, well, it's 500 meters away from the metro, from the train in the Expo. That has nice views, also a lot of outdoors area, because we didn't mention that clearly, but the COVID for sure will have an impact where outdoor working may be also a little bit impacting the future of working in the office. So we also foresaw something like 1,800 square meters of outdoor area accessible to the people from the building, you know, and enabling them also to work outside of the building if they wish to. This building was designed by Saraiva and Associados, and also in joint venture with the A2M. And this is very important because the development and design of a building, and I will jump to a question we had also in the Q&A, is the key to have an efficient building, is the key to have an efficient building and a sustainable building, I would say. We start with a parametric design of the building, being that you design your building in order to take into account the environment of the building, being the noise, being the solar exposure, being all what you have around the building. And that's only when doing that you can achieve the best efficiency and the highest sustainability in the development. And that is basically what we did here. We developed a building for almost 28,000 square meters that will hopefully start being built very soon. And all what we've been thinking of and what we have designed has been consolidated so far and will be consolidated in several certifications, like Julie mentioned. BREEAM for sure, where we will be aiming for BREEAM Excellent. So the certification is ongoing. And WELL, we have already the pre-certification for WELL core and shell, and we will be proposing a building ready for the tenant or the occupier to apply for WELL Platinum with the highest grade of well-being for the tenants. Next to that, also something we did not mention much more into detail, but that is quite important, is the passive house certification, because the passive house focus more on the energy consumption and the production of the energy that is consumed by the building. And this is very important, of course, because the less we consume, the less the carbon footprint of the building will be. So this is for sure a big improvement. But this is not only an improvement for the planet, it's also an improvement for the tenant, because less consumption means also less costs. And for this building, for instance, we had our MEP advisor or engineers estimating that the costs for the use of the building in terms of heating, cooling, lighting would be around 30% less than a standard building that we see nowadays in the market. So this is not only a development that we do because we have to do it, it's also a development that we do because this is more efficient for the people who will live in the building. So there was a question also that I saw in the chats with regard to do we receive grants from governments or from the EU to go towards this route? The answer is no, and we strongly believe that this is the route that we have to follow, that everybody has to follow, and that is what we try to do, is just to put our brick to the building by developing something that is sustainable and that decrease the carbon footprint. And by doing so, we provide also better environment for the people to work, to live in a mixed scheme, and also decrease the cost of occupation for the companies. So just a few images maybe for the building for you to see how it looks like. This is a building, as I said, of 28,000 square meters, with a view on the river, so on the Tejo. As you may see, it's not because you have a building that is a passive house building and that is a BREEAM excellent building that you need necessarily to go to boring architecture. You can still work with transparent glass. You can still work with a lot of light in the building. So this is really where we try to play and where we try to foster on our expertise in the different countries, is in order to develop something that is efficient, but also that tries to please the eyes of the people that are walking by. So that's from the inside of the building, the kind of outdoor space that you would have in the building to work or to relax, and the view that you would have from the very top floor, which is of course a very, very nice thing. So we would like to thank you for the presentation. I will go through a few questions that we still had, and I will give also the word to Julie for some of these. So I will stop sharing first. There was one question that came back several times. It was with regard to renovation versus a building from scratch, so greenfield. I will first give my view, and I will give the word to Julie afterwards. But as a developer, of course, it's easier to start from scratch. When you start from scratch, when you have a greenfield, it's easier to develop the building with a parametric design. That means the environment. It's a lot easier, a lot more cost efficient, and you can achieve also higher results by doing that. Now, it is true that you don't need to demolish everything. We are still an urban developer, so you don't destroy the city. Next to the heritage, that is very important. You need to hold the buildings that have a value from the historic standpoint. You can always try to work, and that is what we always try to do, to work from what we have in the hand. So this is the first assessment that we always do, is to see what could we keep in the building, what should we keep in order still to meet the standards that we want to achieve for the tenants and for the occupiers. So often you could say, okay, we have a building that has a structure that is possible to reuse. So we strip the building, we restart from the structure, and we try to avoid as much as possible consuming materials and doing things that consume energy that are not necessary. Nevertheless, when we try to invest in a building, we do kind of a calculation also over the life cycle of the building. Is it important to keep the structure, or is it better to destroy it, taking into account that the destruction will cost that much and will also consume that much energy, but you will win over the 15, 20, 30, 40 years of the life cycle of the building. So this is always a calculation and a trade-off that we make in our projects, in our assessment of our projects. I don't know, Julie, if you want to add anything maybe on that.
No, you have. I totally agree with what you say. So yeah, I think it's always a kind of balance between what's there and what will be there. And yes, of course, we have to assess that all as soon as we have a new project.
Mm-hmm. There was also another question from Marcos for you, Julie. Yes. It was with regard to Archilab. Do we develop only our knowledge through Archilab, or do we work also with startups or other companies to develop this knowledge and this approach?
So actually, we totally do both. It means that inside Atenor, we have people just researching also and working together, and so this is the primary source, of course, of knowledge and expertise. But we do clearly we invite experts, because we don't want to just be in a closed environment, And for example, the next week we have a startup coming from the Netherlands, Planologic, which is a specialist on planology and artificial intelligence. And so, of course, it's not the main knowledge of Atenor. So, of course, we rely on external expert and on partnerships. So, yes, we are really trying to link what we do and Archilab with external startup company, or to see where partnership can happen, because I think that if we want to go further, we can't just do it alone. We need to have partnership with people that have other specialties than we have.
Okay, thank you, Julie. Maybe one last question, because we are already a lot over the time. There was a question also with regard to the pandemic and whether it has an impact on the acceleration or the deceleration, I would say, of our commitment towards our program of sustainability. Well, I would say I would jump on what Julie said. This is something that was not new for us on sustainability. Before we had these SDGs that were provided by the United Nations, we were already working on this, because this was, as Julie said, also as a developer, and especially as an urban developer, we need to invest in the strategy and thinking about the future 5 years, 6 years ahead. Now, for sure, it will increase and accelerate our commitment towards the sustainability and the development of sustainable buildings. You may see also in the certification some evolution as well. For instance, the WELL certification, they've developed now a specific certification for well health and safety. Which is really focusing now on the problematic of these pandemics. And this is also something that we integrate in our programs. For instance, the WELL-B building in Lisbon will integrate that, and this is a certification that we will apply for as well. So you see, we always we have been in the past investing a lot in sustainability, in our knowledge, but for sure now we push on the accelerator, I would say, just to provide people with what they expect for, because this is more nowadays like everybody is waking up and saying, okay, now we really need to do that, because we see what are the consequences of what we have done over the last years. And we see that the problematics are accelerating. So all the companies are being aware now of the problematic and are really accelerating. And so we accelerate as well to provide those companies with an environment to work in. Julie, anything to add?
Yes, I agree. I think that, for example, also regarding the new ways of working are also linked to more sustainable ways of working, and we were already working on that before the pandemic. And of course, some of the changes that we were foreseeing just happened over several months instead of several years. And so it's for me, it was really an acceleration. It was not a deceleration. It was more about okay, let's like a living experience that was happening just suddenly. And I think it's really good that we can learn lessons from what happened, and to also continue to develop projects that are sustainable for the future, and taking in account the health and well-being of people, if of course it's something that we can't just neglect. So yes, for me it was more an accelerator of the sustainability approach that we had.
Maybe there was something that we may add as well, is those certification. This is not always easy. This is more a confirmation of what we do, but this is not always easy to get those certification, because some of the of the criteria may go against each other. And that is always the difficulty when you see passive house that is, for instance, looking especially at the consumption of energy, whilst the well certification, you need to increase the natural light. Of course, these are the kind of things you need to play with. And that is really, I would say, a challenge, but this is an interesting challenge because this is how we reach the next level, and we try to meet all those criteria together and to find the right balance for the tenants in order to have a pleasant environment. So there was still some question. I'm very sorry for that, but we are already quite a lot above the time. The presentation will be available. The webinar will also be available to the people who have registered. I believe you will receive an email soon, or it will be available through the site of the Chamber of Commerce. I would like to thank everyone for the attendance. I would like to thank Chantal also for the invitation, and to thank Ines and Rita for the organization of the webinar.
Thank you very much, Julie and Gregory, for this great presentation and bringing the sustainability goals closer to us in a sector that's maybe not always well known for everyone, and showing the human factor behind the bricks and the mortar. And it's great to hear about these great things that you are doing with Atenor, and soon to be followed, I suppose, because I think you will have other projects that we will see on social media or during another presentation. And I also would just like to thank the participants to this webinar, and see you for the next one. And thank you, Rita and Ines. Talk to you later and have a great day.
Thank you. Muito obrigado a todos.
Muito obrigado.
Thank you very much. Bye.